Meghan Markle just handed the internet pure gold, and honestly, she has no idea how badly this backfired. The Duchess of Sussex appeared at the Fortune Most Powerful Women Summit, and what was supposed to be her big moment as a serious businesswoman turned into a masterclass in cringe. The video is spreading like wildfire, but not for the reasons Meghan hoped. People aren't inspired, they're not impressed. They're laughing, they're confused, and they're calling out every single contradiction that spilled from her mouth during that interview. Picture Meghan on stage, trying desperately to position herself as this authentic, relatable founder who's just like every other entrepreneur grinding it out. She's talking about financial independence, about building community, about her passion for her brand. But here's the thing that nobody can ignore. Every word feels rehearsed, every claim feels hollow, and the audience can sense it. You can practically feel the disconnect between what she's saying and what everyone in that room knows to be true. The moderator lobs softball question after softball question, and Meghan responds with her signature word salad, throwing around business buzzwords that sound impressive but mean absolutely nothing. She talks about authenticity while her entire presentation screams manufactured. She discusses building her brand from the ground up while conveniently glossing over the fact that every door opened for her because she married a prince. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. But the real kicker? Meghan keeps positioning herself as this scrappy underdog, this female founder who's learning as she goes, making mistakes and pivoting like everyone else. Except she's not like everyone else. She didn't bootstrap her way into a Netflix deal. She didn't hustle for investors or pitch venture capitalists. She walked into Hollywood with a royal title and a built-in platform that 99.9% of actual entrepreneurs could never dream of accessing. And yet somehow she's managed to fumble nearly every opportunity. The summit was supposed to showcase Meghan as a serious business leader, someone other women could learn from and look up to. Instead, it exposed every weakness in her strategy, every gap in her knowledge, every carefully constructed narrative that doesn't hold up under even the gentlest scrutiny. The comments are disabled on her social media for a reason, but she can't control what happens when clips from this summit start circulating everywhere else. Industry experts are watching this and wincing. Actual female founders are scratching their heads wondering how someone with so many resources and so much visibility could make such fundamental mistakes. And the general public? They're having a field day dissecting every claim, every awkward laugh, every moment where Meghan's carefully crafted image slips and reveals something far less polished underneath. This was supposed to be her victory lap. Instead, it might just be the moment everyone realizes the Duchess has no business clothes. Let's talk about the most embarrassing moment of the entire summit. And honestly, it's hard to pick just one. But this particular fumble reveals everything you need to know about how Meghan Markle runs her business. She kept calling her product jam, over and over and over again. The problem? She doesn't sell jam, she sells spread. And before you think this is just semantics, it's absolutely not. There's a legal difference, a labeling difference, and the fact that Meghan doesn't know what product she's actually selling is absolutely mind-blowing. Jam has a specific definition. It requires a certain percentage of fruit, a specific sugar content, and must meet particular standards to legally be called jam. Spread is what you make when your product doesn't meet those requirements. It's literally the backup option, the consolation prize of preserves. And Meghan Markle, the founder and face of American Riviera Orchard, cannot correctly identify her own hero product. She's up on that stage talking about how jam was the origin story, how jam is what started everything, how she was making so much jam at home, except she wasn't making jam. She was making spread. This isn't a small oversight. This is Business 101. You have to know what you're selling. You have to understand your product inside and out, especially when you're the founder standing on a stage at a major business summit talking to actual entrepreneurs and business leaders. These women in the audience have done their homework. They know their products, their margins, their supply chains, their competition. And here's Meghan, fumbling the most basic element of her entire brand. The moderator never corrects her, not once. She just lets Meghan ramble on about jam, while anyone who's actually purchased from American Riviera Orchard knows the label clearly states it's spread. The disconnect is jarring. It makes you wonder if Meghan even reads her own product labels, or if she's so removed from the actual business operations that she genuinely doesn't know the difference. Either option is terrible. But wait, it gets worse. Meghan talks about how she's constantly involved in every detail of the brand, how she's hands-on with product development, how she's poring over profit and loss statements and adjusting margins, yet she can't correctly name what she sells. The contradiction is glaring. You can't claim to be deeply involved in your business while simultaneously demonstrating you don't know fundamental facts about your flagship product. Real entrepreneurs watching this are cringing. They're thinking about all the work they put into understanding every aspect of their business, every regulation, every label requirement, every marketing detail. And then there's Meghan waving her hands around talking about jam that isn't jam, selling a fantasy version of her business that doesn't match reality. This moment alone undermines every other claim she made during that entire interview. Because if she can't get this right, what else is she getting wrong? Now let's talk about the Netflix situation, because Meghan tried to pull off one of the most transparent spin jobs in recent memory. memory, and she really thought nobody would notice. When asked about her partnership with Netflix, Meghan painted this picture of success and flexibility. She talked about how the deal was extended, calling it an incredible sign of the strength of their partnership. She made it sound like Netflix was so impressed, so thrilled with their work, that they just had to keep the Sussexes around. Except that's not what happened. Not even close. The original overall deal that Harry and Meghan signed with Netflix was worth a reported $100 million. That deal expired, and what they got in return was a first-look deal. For those who don't speak Hollywood, that's a massive downgrade. An overall deal means Netflix is paying you whether you produce anything or not. A first-look deal means Netflix gets to see your ideas first, but they're not obligated to buy anything, and they're certainly not cutting checks just for the privilege of your presence. Meghan tried to frame this as giving them flexibility, saying now they can shop content to other partners if it's not the right fit for Netflix. But here's the reality that everyone in the entertainment industry knows. If Netflix, the streaming giant that buys practically everything, passes on your content, good luck finding someone else who'll pay decent money for it. The industry is contracting, studios are cutting budgets, Paramount is drowning in debt, Disney is struggling, Warner Brothers is being sold off in pieces, Netflix is one of the only companies still spending, and if they don't want your show, you're probably stuck selling it for pennies on the dollar or dumping it on YouTube. So when Meghan sits there talking about how wonderful it is to have this flexibility, what she's really saying is Netflix stopped guaranteeing them money. They're no longer confident enough in the Sussex brand to pay up front. They want to see pitches, evaluate each project individually, and decide case by case whether it's worth the investment. That's not a vote of confidence. That's Netflix hedging their bets after Harry and Meghan's track record proved less than stellar. The only massive hit they delivered was their own documentary series, and let's be honest, that succeeded because people wanted to watch them trash the royal family, not because of any particular production brilliance. Everything else has underperformed or flopped entirely, and now Meghan's on stage trying to convince a room full of smart businesswomen that this downgrade is actually a strategic win. The audacity is almost impressive. Almost. But the reality is transparent, and no amount of carefully worded spin can hide the fact that Netflix just quietly demoted the Duchess. There was this moment during the summit that perfectly captured just how out of touch Meghan Markle really is, and honestly, it was almost painful to watch. The moderator asked her about social media strategy, about how she's using platforms like Instagram and TikTok to build her brand and connect with consumers. Reasonable question, right? Especially for someone launching a lifestyle company in 2025. And Meghan's response? She laughed and said the last time she was on Instagram, Boomerang was a thing. Let that sink in for a second. Boomerang. That feature launched back in 2015 and peaked around 2017. Meghan is essentially admitting she hasn't meaningfully engaged with Instagram in nearly a decade, yet she's trying to sell a modern lifestyle brand that depends entirely on social media marketing and digital community building. The disconnect is absolutely staggering. She's attempting to build a business in a space she openly admits she doesn't understand or participate in. But here's where it gets even more ridiculous. Meghan said this like it was charming, like it made her relatable somehow. She giggled about being so old and out of touch, as if admitting ignorance about the primary marketing channel for her business was endearing rather than alarming. The women in that audience weren't nodding along thinking how cute and authentic she is. They were probably wondering how someone could possibly launch a direct-to-consumer brand without understanding the platforms where consumers actually live. Every successful lifestyle brand today is built on social media engagement. They're on Instagram daily, posting stories, creating reels, engaging with followers, showing up consistently. They're on TikTok making short-form content that connects with younger audiences. They understand algorithms, they track metrics, they know what resonates and what falls flat. And then there's Meghan, who thinks Boomerang is still relevant and treats Instagram like some mysterious foreign land she's just beginning to explore. The moderator asked if she'd be joining TikTok, and Meghan gave this vague non-answer about her complicated relationship with social media. She talked about online safety and protecting children, which sure, valid concerns, but plenty of brands and founders manage to maintain active social media presence while also advocating for digital safety. It's not an either-or situation. It's just another excuse for why Meghan can't be bothered to do the actual work required to build a modern brand. She wants the success, the recognition, the sales, but without putting in the effort to meet consumers where they actually are. She wants to cherry-pick the parts of entrepreneurship that feel comfortable while ignoring the rest. And that Boomerang comment just crystallized everything. Meghan Markle is trying to build a 2025 brand with a 2015 understanding of social media, and she genuinely doesn't see the problem. Meghan spent a solid portion of this summit talking about community, about how important it is to her brand, about how she wants to create connection and engagement with her audience. She went on and on about the value of bringing people together, of fostering relationships, of building something meaningful beyond just selling products. It all sounded beautiful and intentional and deeply authentic, until you remember one crucial detail. Her comments are turned off, completely disabled. No community discussion allowed. Think about the irony here for a second. Meghan is on stage preaching about community building while actively preventing her audience from actually forming any kind of community on her platforms. Real community happens when people can interact with each other, share experiences, support one another, debate and discuss and connect. None of that can happen when the comments section is locked down tighter than Fort Knox. What Meghan has created isn't community. It's a broadcast channel where she talks and everyone else is forced to listen in silence. But wait, it gets better. When the moderator pushed back gently, asking how she creates community without comments, Meghan had an answer ready. She explained that her social media manager sends her screenshots of user-generated content, and then Meghan personally writes handwritten notes responding to select posts. She presented this like it was some genius solution, some creative workaround that lets her engage authentically while protecting her mental health and shielding supporters from negativity. Except that's not community building. That's pen pal correspondence with a handful of carefully chosen fans. Community is messy and organic and happens between members, not just between a founder and individual followers. Community is people connecting with each other over shared interests, forming friendships, creating inside jokes, supporting each other through challenges. Meghan writing individual notes to random users she handpicks is performative at best and controlling at worst. The real reason she keeps comments off has nothing to do with protecting her supporters from negativity. It's about protecting herself from accountability. It's about controlling the narrative and preventing anyone from asking difficult questions or pointing out inconsistencies or sharing experiences that contradict the carefully curated image she's trying to project. With comments enabled, people could discuss why products aren't selling out anymore, why the rebrand happened, why trademarks failed, why shipments take weeks. Without comments, Meghan gets to pretend everything is perfect. Other brands manage to maintain comment sections. They hire moderators, they filter spam, they create community guidelines. It's not impossible, it's just work, and it requires being willing to face criticism, to hear feedback, to admit when something isn't working. Meghan wants all the benefits of community, the loyalty and engagement and word-of-mouth marketing, without any of the vulnerability or accountability that real community demands. That's not building community. That's building a carefully controlled echo chamber. There was this moment during the summit that made anyone with even basic knowledge of television production absolutely cringe. Meghan was talking about her Netflix show, With Love Meghan, and trying to explain why 8 episodes across 2 seasons was somehow this massive undertaking. And then she dropped this comparison that was so ridiculous, so transparently inflated, that it's honestly hard to believe she said it with a straight face. She compared producing her cooking show to her 7 years on Suits. Let's break down why this is absolutely insane. Suits was a scripted 1-hour legal drama. Meghan worked on that show for 7 years, filming 16 to 18 episodes per season. That's a production schedule that runs most of the year. She had to memorize pages of dialogue, hit precise marks for camera, work with multiple directors and cinematographers, coordinate with an ensemble cast, and maintain character consistency across years of storytelling. The crew was massive, the production timelines were tight, and the technical demands were significant. With Love, Meghan is a lifestyle cooking show. She films in beautiful locations, mostly her own home or carefully styled spaces. She's not memorizing scripts, she's talking casually about recipes and entertaining. She's not hitting precise blocking for complex scenes. She's arranging flowers and folding napkins. The production might look polished, but it's fundamentally different from scripted television. It's closer to a YouTube video with a bigger budget than it is to an actual television drama. And here's the thing that makes this comparison even more ridiculous. Meghan wasn't running Suits. She was an actor on Suits, a supporting actor at that. Not even the lead. She showed up, said her lines, and went home. She wasn't in production meetings. She wasn't making creative decisions. She wasn't managing budgets or coordinating crew or dealing with post-production. She was a cog in a much larger machine. And yes, she worked hard, but she wasn't responsible for the overall production in any meaningful way. But now with her Netflix show, suddenly she's comparing the two, as if they're equivalent workloads, as if filming 8 episodes of a cooking show where she makes spread, and teaches gift wrapping is somehow comparable to 7 seasons of a scripted drama. The inflation of her own importance and the difficulty of her current work is genuinely breathtaking. Actual television producers watching this are probably screaming at their screens. This moment perfectly encapsulates Meghan's entire approach. She takes something relatively simple, wraps it in important-sounding language, compares it to something legitimately difficult, and hopes nobody notices the massive gap between reality and her narrative. She's counting on people not understanding the difference between scripted and unscripted television, between being talent and being a producer, between showing up and actually running the show. The absolute peak of tone deafness came when Meghan started talking about financial independence. The moderator lobbed her this softball question about the importance of women having their own money and making their own choices, and Meghan launched into this whole speech about empowerment and and autonomy and how crucial it is for women to have financial freedom. She talked about financial literacy for young girls, about supporting each other's legacies, about how we shouldn't be afraid to discuss money. And the entire time, everyone watching had to be thinking the same thing. This woman married a prince. Let's be crystal clear about Meghan's path to financial independence. She was a working actress on a cable show, making decent money but nothing extraordinary. Then she met Prince Harry, married into one of the wealthiest and most powerful families on the planet, and suddenly had access to resources and connections that 99.99% of women will never experience. Her entire current platform, every business opportunity she has, every door that opens for her, exists because she married royalty. That's not financial independence. That's marrying money and then rebranding it as entrepreneurship. The women in that room, the actual entrepreneurs and business leaders, they built their success through years of grinding. They pitched investors, they maxed out credit cards, they worked second jobs to fund their dreams. They didn't have a father-in-law who's the King of England. They didn't have automatic meetings with Netflix executives because of their royal title. They didn't launch lifestyle brands with built-in press coverage from around the world. They earned every single step of their success through talent, hard work, and perseverance. And here's Meghan, sitting on that stage preaching to them about financial independence like she has any idea what it actually takes to build wealth from nothing. Like she understands the struggle of being a woman in business without a safety net, without connections, without a famous last name opening every door. The hypocrisy is absolutely stunning. She's talking about autonomy while her entire business model depends on the royal connection she simultaneously claims to want distance from. The moderator asked about the importance of financial independence, and Meghan said it gives you freedom of choice. Sure, absolutely true. But whose choice is she talking about? The choice to leave royal life was only possible because Harry had money. The choice to move to Montecito was funded by royal wealth. The choice to turn down opportunities or be selective about partnerships exists only because she's financially secure through marriage. Everything she frames as her own achievement is actually built on a foundation of inherited and married wealth. Real financial independence means building something entirely on your own merit. It means not having a safety net, not having backup resources, not having a partner whose family could buy and sell small countries. Meghan talking about financial independence to actual self-made women isn't inspiring, it's insulting. Meghan made a big deal during the summit about how her products kept selling out. She laughed about it, called it amazing, said it was both a blessing and a challenge because they couldn't gather proper consumer data when everything disappeared so quickly. She painted this picture of overwhelming demand, of customers desperately trying to get their hands on American Riviera orchard products before they vanished. It all sounded impressive, like proof that her brand was genuinely connecting with consumers, until you dig into what actually happened. Those early sellouts everyone keeps hearing about, they were manufactured through scarcity. Industry insiders and business analysts have pointed out that if you only stock 50 or 100 units of each product, of course you're going to sell out quickly. That's not organic demand, that's artificially limited supply creating false urgency. Real brands test the market by stocking appropriately, by having enough inventory to actually gauge genuine interest. Meghan's team created the illusion of success by keeping quantities so low that selling out was basically guaranteed. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Those initial sellouts happened, everyone acknowledges that, but what's happening now tells a completely different story. Recent drops aren't selling out. Products are sitting available for days, sometimes weeks. The waitlist that supposedly had thousands of people eager to buy, not translating into actual sales anymore. The curiosity factor has worn off, and what's left is a brand struggling to maintain momentum. Reports suggest that a huge percentage of those early purchases came from journalists, critics, and royal watchers who wanted to experience the products and write about them. They weren't loyal customers planning to reorder. They were one-time buyers satisfying curiosity. Now that the novelty has faded, the real customer base is revealing itself, and it's significantly smaller than Meghan wants anyone to believe. The fans who'll buy anything associated with her are still there, but that's not enough to sustain a business long-term. And let's talk about what she's actually selling. Spread that costs 3 times what you'd pay at a grocery store for better quality. Edible flowers that are completely superfluous. Dog biscuits. Shortbread. Nothing proprietary. Nothing unique. Nothing you can't find elsewhere for less money and better taste. The only selling point is Meghan's name attached to it, and apparently that's not enough anymore. The market has spoken, and the message is clear: people aren't impressed. Meghan sat on that stage talking about inventory management and supply chain challenges like she's dealing with overwhelming demand. But the reality is her products are now readily available because nobody's buying them fast enough to create actual scarcity. The sellout story was a carefully constructed narrative that worked exactly once, and now it's falling apart in real time while Meghan pretends everything is going according to plan. One of the most painful aspects of watching this summit was listening to Meghan throw around business buzzwords like she was playing corporate bingo. She talked about content and commerce meeting, about creating a brand that's both accessible and massagey, about being intentional and authentic while building community through tactile experiences. Every sentence was packed with terminology that sounded impressive but meant absolutely nothing when you actually stopped to think about what she was saying. Take massagey, for example. She used this word to describe her brand, and you could almost see her waiting for the audience to be impressed by her marketing vocabulary. Massage is supposed to mean mass prestige, products that feel luxury but are priced for broader accessibility. Except Meghan's products are overpriced and underperforming. Spread that costs $36 isn't accessible pricing. It's luxury pricing without luxury quality. She's using buzzwords to dress up a brand that hasn't figured out its actual positioning in the market. She kept talking about how content and commerce are meeting, like this was some revolutionary concept she'd discovered. But that's just basic influencer marketing and branded content. Every lifestyle brand does this. They create content that showcases their products and drives sales. It's not innovative, it's standard practice. Meghan acts like she's pioneering something groundbreaking, when really she's just doing what everyone else figured out 5 years ago, except she's doing it less effectively. The whole speech about tactile experiences and getting back to things you can touch was another empty phrase masquerading as insight. She sells online, direct-to-consumer e-commerce. You can't touch the products before buying them. You can't smell the spread or feel the packaging. It's all happening through screens, the exact opposite of tactile. She throws this phrase out there hoping it sounds meaningful, but it directly contradicts her actual business model. And don't even get started on the constant references to being intentional and authentic. Meghan must have said authentic a dozen times during that interview. But here's the thing about authenticity. Truly authentic people don't have to constantly announce how authentic they're being. They just are. When you have to repeatedly tell people you're genuine and real and honest, it usually means you're working very hard to convince them of something that isn't naturally apparent. Authenticity shouldn't require a marketing campaign. The women in that audience have real businesses with actual metrics and genuine strategies. They understand their markets, they know their customers, they can articulate their value propositions without hiding behind meaningless jargon. And then there's Meghan, rattling off buzzwords she probably learned from a business podcast, hoping nobody notices she's saying absolutely nothing of substance. It's verbal sleight of hand, and anyone paying attention can see right through it. The word salad isn't fooling anyone except maybe Meghan herself. This Fortune Summit appearance wasn't just one awkward interview. It was a perfect encapsulation of everything Meghan Markle has been doing since leaving the royal family. She's been constructing this alternate reality where she's a successful entrepreneur, a beloved public figure, a woman who walked away from privilege to build something meaningful on her own terms. And events like this summit expose just how flimsy that construction really is when faced with even gentle scrutiny. Every claim she made during that interview fell apart under the slightest examination. She's building community but disables comments. She knows her business intimately but can't name her own product correctly. She's a savvy entrepreneur but admits she hasn't used social media meaningfully in years. She preaches financial independence while owing every opportunity to royal connections. The contradictions stack up so high they become impossible to ignore, and the video going viral means more people are noticing than ever before. What's fascinating is how Meghan seems genuinely unaware of how transparent all of this has become. She delivers these lines with such confidence, like she truly believes the narrative she's spinning. Maybe she's surrounded herself with people who only tell her what she wants to hear. Maybe she's bought into her own mythology so completely that she can't see the gaps anymore. Either way, the result is the same. She's out of touch with reality and increasingly out of step with public perception. The summit was supposed to legitimize her as a businesswoman, to position her alongside actual founders and industry leaders. Instead, it highlighted every weakness in her strategy and every flaw in her execution. The real entrepreneurs in that room have built sustainable businesses through innovation, hard work, and genuine connection with their customers. Meghan has built a house of cards held together by royal title and celebrity curiosity, and the foundation is crumbling faster than she can rebuild it. Here's the bottom line that nobody seems willing to say directly to her face. American Riviera Orchard is failing. With Love, Meghan underperformed. The podcast crashed and burned. The children's book flopped. The pattern is undeniable, and no amount of word salad or strategic reframing can hide it. The public has figured out that behind all the polished imagery and carefully crafted narratives is a woman who wants the rewards of success without doing the actual work required to achieve it. This viral summit moment matters because it's the lie catching up to the liar in real time, caught on camera for everyone to see. Meghan can't control the narrative when clips are spreading across platforms she doesn't even understand how to use. She can't delete comments pointing out her contradictions when they're happening on accounts she doesn't manage. The carefully constructed image is shattering, and all the authenticity speeches in the world won't put it back together. So drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.